Hey, y'all.
Hey, I wanted to share a story with everybody out there just because I was trying to get a hold of the guy, and I didn't get to say. I saved his name the first time in my other phone, and didn't get a chance to save it when I reset this old phone. This is the old phone, but I reset it once and lost the number. But I just wanted to let everybody out there know the story on it, man. He calls me, he tells me that, he texts me and let me know that he was a firefighter. And it was the guy that's going to bring that 72 Chevy truck to me. He wants to see, I'm sure everybody out there wants to see me put my hands on it. It needs to be restored. He sent me pictures of it. Got frustrated because I couldn't receive all the pictures because the new phone, it just went haywire. I can't even shoot footage on it and send it in. I don't know if it's a cheaper phone or what. Don't know if the guy was just trying to sell me a phone and get me out of there so he could get commission on the phone. I don't know. I couldn't tell you. But I wanted to share a story out there. It brings me back to the day, man. The guy's a firefighter, and my dad worked for the Hereford Fire Department up by Amarillo, Texas. And I used to get excited when Dad used to get a call. He used to get a little beep. Beep, 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 beep. And they would get on there and they would tell him where the fire was. Well, he had an old, I think it was a late 70s or early 80s step-side Chevy truck that me and him took the body off of another... it was a two-wheel drive at the time, and me and him worked on it a little bit together, and we turned it into a four-wheel drive. We transferred the body and the cab and the fenders and everything. We transferred the whole body onto a four-wheel drive chassis. And I remember I used to get so excited whenever I was just, I think I was in grade school. I used to get so excited when he got a call in for a fire, and I was in the truck. And sorry, I got something stuck in my teeth. I don't know what it is. But this is an ironic story. This is for you, firefighter guy with the 72 Chevy truck. My dad took a call, and it was during the day. I remember it was very hot. And we went to the call, and he told me, he says, look, he says, I want you to get down in the floorboard, and whatever you do, don't look up. I don't want you to see what's happening on here. And I didn't know what was going on, and you know how little kids are, man. You know how little kids are. I mean, he even had the little red and blue flashers on his truck. You know, it would go back and forth underneath the grill, you know. And so I just loved to go to fire calls, and I loved it when he would speed through red lights and stuff like that. Even with that four-wheel drive truck, we could hop some of the intersections. I was just, yeah, I was a little kid. I was just all excited to go to a fire call. But anyway, we got to that fire call, man. And he told me to get down on the floorboard, and whatever you do, I don't want you looking at the scene, please. And I didn't listen. And I stuck my head up over the dash of that truck, and I seen scrambled eggs all over the road. And I snuck back down in the seat, and I would poke my head up, look, poke my head up, look, poke my head up, look, some more, poke my head up. And after we left, I said, Dad, I looked, man, and I want to know what scrambled eggs, why there were scrambled eggs all over the freeway there. And he shook his head, and I remember him holding his head like this, and he said, those are brains, son. And they were all over the road, and because the road was so hot, it fried his brains, and it made it look like scrambled eggs, but those weren't scrambled eggs. And I remember getting woozy in the stomach. And I'll share another one with you. One time he got a call. I didn't get to go there. One time he got a call, and he said he got back from the call, and he said, because I heard on the radio that a guy got pinned. He worked for the railroad, and he got pinned in between the two box cars. And he was pinned from I think, you know, between his waist and his kneecaps. He was locked in. And you know how the car's locked together? He was locked in, and man, just I'm having a hard time telling the story because it's a sad story. But he was locked in between the two cars, and they got 2 pieces of metal pipe, and they called his family. They called the guy's family up, and they told the family to get there as soon as possible. And they met at the scene with the guy that was there, and that was his family, his 2 kids and his wife. And they gave him a chance, and they told him, look, there's no promises once we unlock this truck. Once we unlock these 2 cars from each other. He said there's no promises because he could, you know, he could pass when we release him. And it was pretty serious. So the firefighters, they got two metal bars, and they clamped around the bottom of his legs. They clamped real hard, as they could. And the man told his wife and 2 kids that if I don't make it, I love y'all so much. I love you. And he kissed them all goodbye. And they released that truck. They unhooked it, and he died. And watching my dad be a firefighter, every time he got a call, I was always scared if Dad wasn't ever going to come home. It's very hard to be a son or a close relative of a fireman, because they put their lives at risk every day. Every day. Every time they get a call, he was only volunteer. But it's very hard to be a son of a firefighter, because he risks his life to save other people's lives. And I always worried about it. Every time he got a call, man, I couldn't go to sleep at night if it was in the middle of the night, if it was during the middle of the day and I knew he was going on a call. I knew there might be a chance that he might not come back, because that's what firefighters do. They risk their own lives to save others. And when my dad moved to Wyoming, he was with search and rescue, and a guy, I'm sorry, I'll tell you another story. There was a guy, I don't know if it was searching, they had to, I can't remember if the kid got away or something like that, but I do remember my dad telling me this story, that they caught a guy. It was a young guy. It was a kid. And I think search and rescue found the kid, and they put him in the back of the squad car. I can't remember. It's a foggy situation there. But the kid ended up reaching around. He ended up getting loose somehow, or they didn't put him in handcuffs. They didn't follow what they were supposed to follow. I don't know how it happened. But I remember Dad telling me that the officer lost his life because the kid had reached around the seat and grabbed the officer's gun and pulled the trigger and blew the officer's head. Just blew him up. I remember my dad telling me a lot of times about fires that he would put out and the place would be collapsing. I remember my dad having to leave and go on long journeys to a college to take classes to become the fire chief. He became fire chief of the Hereford Fire Department. And I will tell you this. One time, Dad and Mom left town, and they left the keys to the family van. Well, they didn't leave them. They took the keys on their key rings with them. But they left, and the family van also had Hertford Fire Department on the bumper. And they left, and I snuck the key. I went and found some spare keys out of Mom's dresser drawer and got in the van. And I was going to take that van for a spin. And it was an old van. It didn't go very fast. And I got a little ways through town, and I was shaking all over when I was driving. I was just so nervous. You know, I even had to sit on a pillow. And I had to lean down to push on the gas, and then lean back up to see over the steering wheel. And I looked both ways, and I waited for a car to come, and I didn't look back the other way. Or maybe I did, I can't remember, but I reached down and pushed on the gas, and I ran into somebody. And it scared the heck out of me. And I left the scene of an accident. And I ran. And I didn't realize until I got home that it pulled the bumper off the front of my car. Even though that the guy finally caught up with me, and there was witnesses that chased me down and everything, and the guy says, no, he says, let the kid go, man. He's just a kid. He didn't mean to do it. Let him go. Well, needless to say, back at the scene of the accident, when it was turned in, the police officer took the bumper, and on the front of that bumper, it had Hertford Fire Department on it. And I'd learned how to... I learned a little bit about how to weld. I'm shooting a video, baby. I learned a little bit on how to weld from my daddy. I used to watch him weld whenever he would weld a little bit here and there, and I used to watch my daddy Bob weld. And he was a well-known person in Hertford, Texas as well. So I wouldn't really, I knew how it was done. So before Dad could get back, all it did was just pull the bumper off the front of the van. And it did very little. I think there was a couple little scratches on the side of the van. Something that's just really, you couldn't even notice. Well, for a couple of weeks, Dad, it fooled him. I put the bumper back on there. It pulled the bolts loose in the frame. It busted the, you know, where the eye holes are. It broke the metal loose, and I welded the frame shut. I put a washer on top of it and tack welded it, and I stuck the bumper. It was a little bent, and I wedged it. I forget how exactly that I straightened out that bumper, but I worked real hard. I had one of my best friends at the time. Me and him worked hard to put that van back together. And it fooled Dad. He didn't even notice it, man. And then one day he went to a fireman's meeting, and he told me that he came, you know, he came back home, and I seen him. I knew it because when he got home, I was shaking all over, and I heard him when he pulled in, and I remember watching him crawl under that van, and it's a tragedy, because this is the ring dinger here. This is the straw that broke the camel's back. This is the story. Dad looked underneath it and seen that there had been welding done on it, and that it had been fixed. And the reason why is because one of the volunteer firemen says, "Hey, I happened to see your bumper in the office at the police station. How did that happen?" Because the police questioned me and everything. They said charges wasn't being brought. You need to come get this bumper. I said, "Well, you're not going to tell Dad, are you? You're not going to tell Dad?" And he says, "I don't think you're going to have to worry about us telling Dad." I didn't know what he meant by that. But later on I found out why. It's because everybody in there knew Mr. I'm not going to say his name because I don't want him to be embarrassed. He's a man with good pride, man. He don't like being embarrassed. I'm not going to embarrass him, but he's my stepdad, and I love him with all my heart. But at the time, I was 16 years old. And he told me, he says, "Man, you're out of control, dude." He says, you done dropped out of school. You're staying at the house now. He says, you have found yourself a job sacking groceries. He says, me and your mama's going to pay for your first month's room and board. I mean, your first month's rent. Turn on all the bills. And it's up to you to make it from here on, son. Because I'm not going to let you stay with me no more. When you take a van like that, when you take the vehicle and you go against our wishes and do this, you could have hurt somebody. You could have killed somebody. You could have got in an accident and killed yourself. He says, and I'm not going to... You've embarrassed me in front of my whole fire. Everybody at the fire department knows that my son went and did this. And he says, I'm embarrassed. And seeing as how you quit school and you think you're a man enough to go get a job, but you can't stay in the house no more, son. You got to go. And from that moment on, I left the house and was on my own. And I did a lot. I was headed down a road. At the time, I didn't do any kind of drugs. At that time, when I was living with my stepdad and my real mama, I didn't drink. I didn't do nothing, man. But as the years went by, I ended up running with the wrong crowd and ended up finding myself with the wrong people and trying the wrong things. And they wasn't a hardcore addiction that I leaned on real hard, but they were things that were put in my life at that young of an age. I think I was 17 when I finally started smoking pot, and then when I turned 21 years old, I started doing hardcore drugs, you know. And that was the beginning of the long road that I went down, which is the wrong way to go. But anyway, I wanted to share that story out there with y'all, and I wanted the guy that's got that truck. That my dad's a firefighter too, man. He was worked at search and rescue up in Wyoming, and then after he transferred from Hereford, Texas to Wyoming because he was ahead of the Imperial Sugar Factory. He was the man that went over there to fix a factory when it was falling and crumbling. He designed a pump truck for the Hereford Fire Department and got awarded for that. He got all kinds of awards. He got big mirrors with his name on them. He was a fire chief over there. And then when he went to search and rescue, he used to go up in the mountains and hunt for people that were missing. And then now that he's down here living in, well, now that he's down there, because this is not Louisiana that I live in now, he's first response. He has a Jeep, and he's got the passenger seat all ripped out, and he's got his little bags and everything, and he's spent all his life devoted to helping others out there. He's risked his own life at times. I don't think first response you're risking anybody's life. I think that Mom talked him out of not being a firefighter, but first response is what he wanted to do, and he's went to schools and went to classes, and he's just he's a good guy, all around good guy together, and I don't worry about him much anymore like I used to when I was a kid, because when you're a firefighter, you're really risking yourself, you know. He used to go come back and tell Mom some stories, and he didn't think I was listening, but I was, and it scared me. It scared me. It's just one of them things where you gotta deal with that, and I want to tell everybody out there to withhold all the firefighters out there and all the police officers out there that risk their lives every day in the line of duty. Put them in your prayers, because they're stand-up people. And what they do, not only do they have to have courage to do what they do, their family has to deal with that. Their family deals with it. I just know, because I was a child of a guy that's a firefighter, you know, and I know how those children feel, and I know how if they're a police officer and they're running the streets and they're in that area, I know that they risk their lives every day, and it's very frightening for those children. And I want you to pray for all those. I really do. I want you to pray for the firefighters, the people that drive the ambulances, how they're having to go at high speeds to go pick somebody up. they have to, you know, Dad has to deal with, right now he has to deal with first response whenever there's a fight out in the front yard, and if there is a risk. If he shows up there first and there's a domestic violence call, he goes to those, and he's got to know how to talk those people down, get them calmed down, and sometimes they have guns, you know, they're trying to kill each other, you know, the husband and wife's trying to kill each other. I've known calls of that. I've known calls of him having to deal with people that overdose, and people that have been up too many days and acting real weird and skittish, you know, and just doing crazy stuff. It's a crazy world out there, and when those people have to go take care of business, it's hard. It's hard on the families, and it's hard on the guys as well. In fact, I think Dad don't even ride a motorcycle no more, because I think that he answered a call one time, and he went up to a motorcycle, and the guy hit head-on with a car. He was passing, he'd been drinking on the bike, and he swerved over into the other lane, and he hit head-on. And it was a guy that I know, that I happen to know, I used to ride with. And I don't know if that's the reason why he quit riding a motorcycle, but he don't ride his Harley no more. It's not you, it's the people around you. Whenever you're on a motorcycle, you can be the most carefulest person in the world and very cautious person in the world, and still end up getting stuck up in a circumstance. My accident happened at a red light, and the light turned green, and I went to go, and the guy turned right over on top of me, man, and I'm lucky to be alive. And anyway, I'll close this story, man. But yeah, man, that's ironic. It's a small world, ain't it, guy? You know? They say they watch my videos all the time, and I thought I want to share that with y'all, man. I wanted to share that with y'all, and I wanted to put you out there so everybody would pray for you, man, and pray for your safety and your safety home. My dad never did have to live in a firehouse. He was just strictly voluntary, and he still does it voluntarily. He don't get paid, nothing. He does it because he enjoys to do it. He enjoys to do it, and he enjoys helping. It makes him feel good to help people. And anyway, that's the story. See y'all later. Limster out.